Hi, I'm Geri McPherson. What you're going to see here are two versions of wilderness living using nothing but primitive tools and methods. The first part that you'll watch, which actually is what we shot last, is a 5-day trip in which 4 of us went out and created a life from absolutely nothing. We had the clothes on our back that could be used only for sheltering our body. We couldn't use them as containers by utilizing the pockets. We couldn't use them as external shelters, as a covering to protect us when we were making fire. Clothing was made simply because we're not prepared to go naked into the wilderness. Our bodies are not hard enough. Out of this 5-day trip, the first day is the survival day. Shelter is our priority. Fire is a second priority. In July, fire is not normally a priority. This July it was cool. We made certain to have made our fire on the first day. Things were complicated quite a bit, as you'll see, by the fact is that we had a lot of stormy, cool weather. In fact, approximately 2/3 of our first day was lost to lightning. We don't venture out in lightning. We have too much respect for it. The second part of this DVD or video, whichever you happen to be watching, is composed of 2 separate trips that we took 12 or 14 years ago in 1992 and 93. In 92 we went out for 5 days as a small group, and in 1993 an even smaller group of us went out for 3 days. On those trips we took all of our camp accoutrements. We had axes, we had pots for cooking and hauling water, we had other water containers, we had animal parts that we utilized as containers, we had hundreds of feet of cordage and heavy rope, had rawhide containers. Some of us had buckskin clothing. And you'll note between the two that in the second portion of this video, we were much more relaxed. It was like it was a camping trip. Even in the first portion, when we went with nothing, after the first 2 days, it became a camping trip. It could get kind of boring out there, really, if you didn't really enjoy the woods or the wilderness and applying of these skills. The survival part, well, that's the fun part. You're rushing, you've got to get a shelter up fast, you've got to get fire made and contained fast and protected, you've got to figure a water source. This is done a lot of times on day 1, but almost always by day 2. Then life becomes boring. It's laid back and relaxed. It's choose your projects and go. On the second outing that we took with all of our accoutrements, we made projects. We tanned skins, we made pots, we made bows. Primitive living is not a difficult thing. You need to know the skills. You need to know the wilderness. You need to know how to live in the woods. You can use modern methods to learn the way of the woods. Learn the primitive skills in your basement or your backyard. All you're doing is putting them together to make a successful trip naked into the wilderness. Now, both of these videos were shot by me, and that complicates matters because I'm the main man in charge, and not only do I have to direct things, I have to do a lot of the skills because I'm the one skilled in flint knapping an axe faster than others, and then hafting it maybe quicker than others. And I have to videotape this at the same time, so that slows down the real life activities going on. So you're seeing a dramatization on both of these. We're not cheating. We're showing you the application of these skills under two different circumstances. One where we went with absolutely nothing, and one where we took our house with us. We had everything with us. Aboriginal man, primitive man, was born into a culture of goods. He was materialistic. He had baskets, he had pots, he had bedding, he had clothing, he had weapons, he had tools. He had everything that he needed to live. If he went away on a hunting, or she went away on a hunting trip, came back and the house in the village was burned and gone, they're stuck with survival just the same as we are. Their daily application of these skills made it easier for them, but they still had a survival period they had to go through. We cannot compare ourselves. Our bodies aren't as tough on a day-to-day basis as what their bodies were. They could go extended periods without water, in extended periods in the sun. They could tolerate cold better. They could run barefooted through the woods where we can't. They were just tougher people. If you're looking to learn something from these videos, you'll learn some skills from watching this, because you'll always get from me a how-to. I'm always trying to teach. So you'll see a lot of how-to. If you're a student of these skills and you're watching this, you won't get bored. Anyone who is serious about learning these skills and the application of these skills under real life circumstances, this information should be invaluable. One of the biggest things about being born into our culture is your clothing and your bedding. I talk naked into the wilderness. But to go naked into the wilderness and have to create everything, your clothing and bedding and footwear, well, that's a pretty in-depth, deep venture. Imagine one deer as your basis for your clothing. You've got to make a means of harvesting that animal, and it may take you days to harvest one animal, one deer. To tan that animal primitively, making all your tools, especially if you don't have an established campsite yet. That's a pretty in-depth project. The most skilled of us would have difficulty doing it. Primitive man was born into a material culture. He had his clothing. He also married a woman or two or three, and they provided the clothing as he fed them. To make clothing that would last running around in the woods over any extended period of time would require a lot of effort on your part.